Hi, friends. Who wants to go fishing? I know I do, and it's about time. You may not have known this about me, but for 12 years, I was a professional fisherman. Fished on a kayak fishing team on a national company. It was a great sport to be in. I have tons of fishing stories. But let me tell you a different kind of fishing story, and boy, is it a whopper. There's a story in the Bible where Jesus is in a crowd of people, thousands of people, and they don't have any food. They're too far away from Walmart. Nobody can make a run. And so what they do instead is, well, let me read the scripture to you. There's a small boy there. And in John chapter 6 at verse 9, we find there's a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but how will they feed so many? Now, keep in mind, I'm from South Louisiana, so we're not talking about redfish. We're talking about small fish from the Sea of Galilee and probably a small cake or a barley loaf for one person. And so how are you going to feed 5,000 people with such a small amount of fish? Well, it goes on in verse 11. Jesus then took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. And when they had eaten their fill, he told the disciples, gather up the leftover fragments that nothing may be lost. And it tells us in that story that they gathered up basketfuls of leftovers. What an amazing fish story. Sounds like a whopper, but we believe it's true. We believe this is actually what happened. And we want to understand something here. Jesus looks to the disciple and he says, what do you want to do? He already knows what's going to happen. He already has a plan. He's not confused about what's going on, but he wants the disciple to participate, to be part of what's going on. So it's not the size of the crowd at all. It doesn't matter if it's 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000. It doesn't matter if there was one fish or one loaf. Jesus can solve this problem. But he wants to test the disciples' faith. He wants to get a gauge of where they're at. We look at our problems in life according to the size of the problem. What Jesus is calling us to look at is the size of the solution. Are we going to make it a human-sized solution, or are we going to seek out a God-sized solution? So that's our first point. The second point is faithfulness offers what it has, not what it wishes it had. You ever dreamed about winning the lottery and how much you would give to your mom and dad and how much you would buy for a house, and you'd pay off all your cars, and maybe you'd help your kids or friends get out of debt? That's all about us trying to figure out how we could solve a problem with something we don't have. Instead, we need to start thinking as the boy thought. I have a fish. I have some loaves. Let's eat those. Take the solution available and begin to work on that. The question was asked, how are we going to feed so many with so little? The food is small, it's cheap, and it's unimpressive. But it's offered. God doesn't ask the boy for what he doesn't have. He asks the boy to give what he has. And then we must trust God to make it enough. And that's a great life lesson for all of us, to right-size our situation, to pursue the life that's available to us instead of always wishing for something we don't have, to offer up what we do. And then we see that Christ multiplies what is surrendered. If you want to have your life blessed by God, if you want to experience a life of fulfillment, the first step is to surrender that life to God, to give Him your little. Now, this is a story about a miracle, about how the God who created all things took a few fish and a few small loaves and made them more than enough. And so maybe today you're feeling insufficient. Maybe you're feeling less than enough. Good news. That's a great starting point if you want to be part of a miracle story. Friend, I hope to see you around. God bless you.